Всем привет! Мы начинаем прямую трансляцию. У нас сегодня в гостях Юрий, наш коллега и преподаватель ТИСОЛ, и координатор по ТИСОЛ. Также Шерон. Шерон наша гостья из Австралии. Она больше расскажет о себе. Шерон почти всю жизнь преподает в средней австралийской школе. У нее огромный опыт, как работать с детьми разных возрастов, как работать с детьми из России, из Китая, из разных стран, в том числе из Австралии. Сейчас она нам все подробно расскажет. Okay, hello everybody. Sharon, Yuri.
Okay. Hi. Hello guys. So let's start. So Sharon, I know you've been teaching English for quite a long time, right? And you worked with so many national groups, age groups. So why are you so passionate about it? What did you learn while doing this during those years?
Okay, so I have been teaching for actually a very long time, and I am totally passionate about it. I have done other jobs in my life when I've been a student, but there is nothing for me in the world like teaching. There is nothing like when you get a child or an adult or a teenager and they don't speak a single word of English, or maybe they can say hello, and within weeks they're saying, "Hi, how are you? I'm fine, thanks." It is the most rewarding. It's just the most rewarding job in the whole world.
That's
teaching.
Awesome, yeah.
It's brilliant. And you said, what have I learned? I learn from my students constantly, and especially if I'm teaching kids from another culture, which is also, a really interesting experience. I've learned a lot from my kids. Hopefully they've learned from me, but certainly I am constantly learning from my students.
Yeah, we at InterSol Russia, we prepare teachers who work all over the world. And I think it's not that difficult to complete the course itself, but to adapt to a new culture, people, environment, and take the kids. What can you, from your experience, tell us about maybe some difference in teaching Chinese, Australian, Russian kids?
That's a really good question. I'll just tell you
different age actually, yeah.
And different ages.
Yeah.
I'll start with the cultural difference.
Yeah.
I once had a job in Australia teaching at an international school, and most of my students were Chinese. So I taught them. I can't remember exactly what, but I taught them something, and then I said, "Guys, do you understand?" And everybody was, "We understand." I said, "You sure?" "Yes, we understand." So I gave them a quiz, and I realized I hadn't done a good job at all because a lot of them actually did terribly and did not know what I was talking about. So I tried to have this conversation with them, like, "You told me you understood. Like, I'm not, going to shout and hit you with a stick. Why didn't you just tell me you didn't understand?" And apparently, in Chinese culture, if a student says they don't understand, it's a huge insult to the teacher because it's telling the teacher you haven't done a good job. So I think that if you're teaching Chinese kids, it's really interesting to know that from the outset. So, it was very difficult to break them of that habit. So now I would just say to them, choose a kid who I think might not understand and say, "Explain what we've done." Or choose a kid who does know and then let another child follow. So I think what I've learned is that going into different countries and with their different cultures is just trying to talk to the people who've had experience and get that knowledge before you start like me and just, half the kids fail. Yeah. And in terms of different age groups, that's really interesting because I think that there are far more similarities between different cultures than there are differences. So, for example, if we take little children, most little children love to perform and sing and dance and have fun and play games. So it doesn't matter who they are really, if you kind of direct your lesson in that way or structure your lesson in a way where the kids are engaged and busy and doing things, then I think you've got it made. Some cultures, however, are far more reserved than other cultures. Chinese culture being one of them. I've taught a lot of Chinese little children, although eventually they just realize that it's okay to go and put themselves out there.
Interesting. All right. Okay. What can you tell us about distant learning? And distant learning, and maybe you can name any other like new and recent approaches to teaching and
I personally love distance learning. I did my TESOL course through distance learning, and I'm constantly actually doing courses through distance learning. The thing that I like about it is that you can go at your own pace.
Exactly.
Also, I know, like in TESOL, if you're doing the course, they're constantly giving you feedback. So you can go at your own pace, you can redo things, you can rethink things, you can read supplementary readings, and it's all in your own time. So if you're working, or if you're busy, or if you have a lot of time, you can wrap the course up in no time. And I'm actually a great fan of distance learning.
Yeah, actually, I also completed this TESOL course, and finally got my certificate.
Congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. All right, and could you please maybe give some advice to those who are planning to start a TESOL course to become a TESOL teacher? Sure. What should they be ready for, and what is the most promising maybe region to work in, or any other tips?
Okay, the first thing that I would say, and I've had a lot of student teachers in my time, and they always say to me, what's the most important thing about teaching? For me, I think the absolute, look, obviously you've got to know what you're doing.
Exactly.
But I think besides that, one of the most important things is the relationship. And it doesn't matter if there are 3-year-olds or 63-year-olds. The most important thing is the relationship, but especially if the kids are young or teenagers or even adults. The fact, I will make sure, obviously if you've got a class of 60 kids, it's not so easy, but a class of 10, 15, 20, even 30 kids, I make sure that I mention every single kid or every single student by name, so that every kid is validated within the class.
Yeah.
The relationship is so important. Sometimes, obviously, teaching can be frustrating. I honestly can tell you, in all my years of teaching, I have once said to a class, guys, I'm just going to go outside for a minute till you calm down, then I'll be back. But I've never shouted at kids. Kids get things wrong again and again and again. The fact is they're trying, so I think the relationship is really important. And there's a fantastic author, I think this was the author of the book called How to Be a Brilliant English Teacher. It's by a guy called Ron Richard, and he stresses throughout the book how imperative, how important it is to plan. I've been teaching for so long, I will never go into a classroom without being absolutely prepared. And people think I can speak English, I kind of know the course. It is so important to prepare. So that the kids are engaged, they're doing their own work, they're doing practice, they're doing presentation. That's what I'd suggest. And what's the most promising place to visit? I think wherever anybody wants to go will be promising for them and be a great experience for them.
Do you think that a teacher should have some certain kind of personality to work as a teacher, or the person can be trained?
That is the most brilliant question, to be honest, because one of the things that this guy says in his book is people think teachers need to be out there and actors and performers, and it is so not true. One of the best English teachers I've met is a friend of mine, and she is quiet and she's timid. She gives the most fantastic lessons because she's prepared. She knows what she's doing and she's prepared. And that is the key. It doesn't matter what type of personality you have. If you are passionate about teaching and you're prepared to, do the preparation, you'll love it.
Oh, great. I think we had an amazing conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon.
It's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, we hope to see you next time. In our conference, and also I'm sure, Sharon, you have to visit Russia during the winter. So
I'm coming with
Yeah.
my boots and my jacket.
Oh, great, great.
I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Всем большое спасибо, что были с нами сегодня, и надеюсь, что этот семинар был полезен. До встречи, пишите нам, звоните, мы будем очень-очень рады встретиться и пообщаться. Пока.
Bye.
Пока. Bye-bye.